End of series Yuji versus 100 polar bears. Shout out to Professor for asking me about this today, and welcome to our little Juju stroll. You know, I talked a little bit of JJK yesterday while I was out and about, and it was fun. So we're gonna do it again today here. And I might have to remind myself on what Professor's questions were, but this first one's pretty easy. End of series Yuji absolutely destroys 100 polar bears. And you know, no disrespect to the apex predators, but Yuji by the end of the series has more than enough to deal with them. And slight spoilers, I guess. Well, I guess it is spoilers, but you know, the RCT alone, I think, is enough to get him over the edge, and he doesn't even have to use anything else, just with his already superhuman, you know, physicality and the ability to heal. Like, he's one-shotting all the polar bears, right? So yeah, Yuji easy. And then Professor's next question, if I recall, was what JJK character would I like to see introduced to Mortal Kombat? And this is interesting. I haven't played a Mortal Kombat game in like a decade, if not longer. So I'm not the most familiar with like what they're doing these days, but you know, standard fighting game. I'm just trying to imagine like whose toolkit would be cool to see. And Professor did say Mahito is one of his choices, and I think that would be cool. Like how they would, you know, have different special attacks of Mahito, you know, idly transfigure his body to do cool things. But aside from that, I think Megami would be really cool, because I think you could find some cool ways to like integrate the Shikigami into combos and stuff like that. And like, you know, maybe a fatality involving Maharaga would be amazing. Sorry, I had to pause to remember what the third question was, but Professor said, what if in Mahito's last moments, instead of what we got, which was Mahito kind of like, you know, being a blubbering mess, scared for his life, we got a Mahito who was just like maniacally laughing, like happy at what he's seen Yuji become. And that certainly would have been like a cool choice to go with, but I'm glad they didn't go that way, because I really actually love the version we got, because I love how it serves as like this punctuation to the character foil Mahito had been to Yuji, and that, you know, he'd been preaching that he and Yuji were the same on just opposite sides of this spectrum, like Mahito preaching that there was no meaning in the taking of these lives and all that stuff, like very high on his horse and in his pedestal, right? Thinking that his ideology was the correct one, and yet push come to shove, when he was actually forced to face that and face his own mortality, he crumbled, right? He had no willpower or strength of conviction in it at all. And I loved that, because it showed how much weaker he truly was than Yuji. So I love the version we got.